Welcome to today's class. So, in today's class, we are going to be revising biology paper 1 multiple choice questions. So, in this video, to help you to know how to solve multiple choice because you only have 50 minutes for you to do it to solve the entire paper, and there are 40 questions. So, you need to be very fast. So, I'm expecting you to pay particular attention as I show you how you can solve and get marks in multiple choice. So to begin, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share this video to your friends who may also need it. Yeah, so let's begin. The first question is saying the liver cell in the diagram are shown as they would appear under a microscope. So you can see here, this diagram represents cells of the liver. Now the question is asking us how many cell walls are visible. Remember, the question is saying what? How many cell walls are visible? So when you look at this question, the question is asking us the cell wall. But remember, when we are talking about a liver cell is an animal cell. So we say that animal cell lack what? Cell wall. So meaning if an animal cell lacks cell wall, meaning on the diagram here, we do not have any cell wall because a liver cell is an animal cell and animal cell do not contain what? Cell walls. So here our answer is A. Yeah. Moving on to question 2. So question 2 is saying the diagram shows 4 specialized cells. Which of the cells undergoes contraction and relaxation? So most of you who have watched my specialization video are quite familiar with this question. So we are saying that first identify what? The cells. After identifying the cells, you can proceed now to do what? To move to solve. So if we look at A is a plant cell, and because it has an outgrowth, this is what? Root hair cell. So A is root hair cell, and we know that root hair cell does not contract. It is responsible for the movement of water in and out of the roots. Then when we talk about B represents a sperm cell. So a sperm cell is responsible in the fertilization and forming of zygote. Then when we look at since it has what? Dendrites and it has the axon. So this is what is known as a nerve cell. So we know that nerve cells are responsible in what? Transmitting electrical impulses. So meaning C cannot contract. Therefore, leaving us with D, which is the muscle cell. So remember, muscle cells are the cells responsible for doing what? For contraction and relaxation so that you can move. This cell is what is responsible. So here our answer is D. Moving on to our question 3. The diagram shows two plant cells X and Y. So here we have two plant cells X and Y. Which movement Which method of movement will make salts to move from X to Y? So here they're asking about the movement across the cell membrane. So even this topic, I've covered it in, it's just 20 minutes. You can go and watch it also on my channel so that you can understand all the three types of transport. So here we have A, active transport, B, diffusion, C, mass flow, D, osmosis. So don't rush into solving. First, understand the terms. So if you understand that active transport, This is the what? The movement of ions into what? Into the cell. So we are talking about ions. Ions can be what? Salt, sugar, glucose, maltose, all those solutes are what are known as ions. So meaning here our answer is what? A. So this, the movement of salt enters the cell via the what? Active transport. Now why is diffusion long? So we said that diffusion involves the what? Smaller particles. But when we talk about salt, salt is not a smaller particle. We can see it, but diffusion involves substances which we cannot see. Then when we talk about mass flow, so mass flow, this is the movement of what? Of solute in the phloem following what? Where the pressure is low. So here solute moves from a higher pressure to a lower pressure. When you talk about osmosis, just remember water. Osmosis has to do with water. Moving on to question 4. According to the lock and key hypothesis, which is the lock and which is the key for the enzyme maltase? So here they're asking about the key and lock mechanism. Again, all these videos are on my YouTube channel. Yeah. So to begin, first compare. First understand the question before you compare the answer. What are they asking me? So the lock and key mechanism explains the interaction or explains what happens between an enzyme and what? The substrate. I told you that a substrate, this is a substance which the enzyme works on or helps to break down by speeding up what? The reaction. And after you have identified that, okay, here the what? The lock is what? So you have to now understand which one between the enzyme and the substrate is the key and lock. Yeah. So I told you that enzymes are specific, just like a lock is what? Specific. So when you remember that enzymes are specific, so meaning enzyme is the what? Is the lock. Whilst what? The substrate is the key. So now we have understood that, okay, the enzyme is the what? Is the lock. And the what? The substrate is the key. So meaning our key should be an enzyme. Now, how do you identify an enzyme? I told you a simple way for you to identify enzyme is that you take the what? The substrate. For example, carbohydrates. We have maltose, lactose, glucose, amylase, all those what? Nutrients. So all those nutrients, I told you that just remove what? Just remove A here. For example, we have maltose. So for example, I have maltose here. So when you remove the O, you put A, it becomes an enzyme. So an enzyme for maltose is maltase. An enzyme for lactose is lactase. Just like that. So coming on to our answers now. So A, the key is what? Glucose. The lock is maltase. This is wrong. Why is this wrong? Of course, the substrate is correct. Glucose is the substrate. But the enzyme which catalyzes the breakdown of glucose is not maltase. You have seen. But it's what? Amylase. So amylase is the one which breaks down which helps to speed up the process of glucose. Then part B, we have the key, which is glucose. We also have the lock, which is maltose. So this one is wrong because here we have both substrates. We have what? Glucose as the substrate. Also we have maltose as the substrate. Moving on to question C. So question C, we have maltase as the key, maltose as the lock. So remember, I told you that the enzyme is the lock, not the what? The substrate. So this one is, they have swapped the two. So meaning our final answer is D. Maltose as our what? As our key, and maltase as our lock, which is the enzyme. Moving on to our question 5. So our question 5 is saying some of the nutrients in sweet potatoes are listed as follows. We have calcium, dietary fiber, iron, and vitamin C. So these are coming from the question nutrients. So you have to revise also for MCQ. So from the list, which nutrients helps to prevent which named disease in the table? So here they are asking you about deficiencies. What deficiency can be caused if you lack what? A1 calcium, 2 dietary fiber, 3 iron, and C vitamin C. Yeah. So now you have to understand what are the deficiencies of each nutrient. So when we are talking about calcium, so calcium is responsible for what? For bone formation. So your bones need what? Calcium. And when you don't have calcium, it will lead to bones not forming, or bones being fragile, or bones being soft, a condition which we call rickets. So whenever you're talking about calcium, the deficiency or the disease that is caused by calcium is known as rickets. So here calcium goes to rickets. Then when we come to anemia, so when you look at anemia, anemia is a disease of blood. So whenever you hear a disease which ends with mia, that remember that they are talking about blood. So remember, so we are talking about blood. What nutrient is responsible for blood? So the nutrient responsible for blood is iron. Now, most of you are wondering, why is iron responsible for blood? So iron is important in the formation of hemoglobin. So whenever you lack iron, hemoglobin won't form. And hemoglobin, if it it is not formed, therefore the blood will be what? Will be few, because hemoglobin is also important for the transport of oxygen. So whenever you hear anemia, think of iron, hemoglobin. So moving on to scurvy. So scurvy, this is a disease when you lack what? Vitamin C. So therefore, our answer here should be what? A. Anemia is caused by iron. Rickets is caused by what? Lack of calcium. Scurvy is caused by lack of vitamin C. Yeah, so this is how simple nutrients are. So moving on to question 6. Nitrate ions are important in plants in the formation of nitrates ion are important in the formation of A. Amino acids, B. ATP, C. Fatty acids, D. Glucose. So here now you have to understand nitrates. So nitrates, what are they what responsible for? So nitrates are building blocks of amino acids. So we know that nitrates are responsible for building up amino acid, but you have to know that this process only occur in plants and microbes, bacteria which have the enzyme that can convert nitrates into what? Into amino acid. So nitrates can combine with what? Glucose to form amino acid. So remember, amino acids are formed from what? Nitrates and glucose in bacteria. So that's what you need to remember. So here our answer is what? A. So here we say this A. Here we say. Moving on to question 7. The diagram shows part of a transverse section through a leaf. So this is a leaf. So a leaf, this is how an internal structure of a leaf looks like. So what are the main function of the labeled region? What are the main function of the labeled region? We have 1 here, we have 2 here, we have 3 here. So the first step, always I have told you, the first step you need to know is label the diagram. So make sure you know some of the diagram in your book. They are simple to know. Make sure you know them, because once you label them, the question will be simple. So let's label them. So our 3, so we'll start with 3. So 3, you can see that these cells are columnar, and what I told you that these columnar cells or these long cells are known as the palisade cell. Then this layer is known as the palisade mesophyll. Yeah, so this layer is what is called the palisade mesophyll layer. Yeah, so remember that. So 3 is palisade, and I told you that palisade, this is where mostly photosynthesis occurs, because this is where the chloroplasts are a lot. So 3, we are talking about what? Palisade cells. So 3 is responsible for what? For photosynthesis. So we are saying that region 3 is responsible for photosynthesis because it contains high concentration of chloroplast in palisade cells. That's so. Moving on to 2. So 2, I told you that when you see a space here and it's loosely packed when you compare it to 2, just know that this is a spongy mesophyll. What? This is a spongy mesophyll layer. And I told you that when there is space, what do you expect? Diffusion to occur. And diffusion is the process of gaseous exchange. So meaning our region 2 is what? The spongy mesophyll layer, and it is involved in gaseous exchange. Yeah. So moving on to now 1. So 1, I told you that whenever you see a lot of cells packed together, remember this is the vesicular bundle. And I told you that the vesicular bundle contains 2 things. There's the xylem and it has also what? The phloem. So these are the 2 type of cells which are present in the vesicular bundle, and we say that they are all responsible for transport in the plant. So now that we have identified, we are going to pick a best answer which corresponds every region to it. So moving on to A. A is saying region 1 is gaseous exchange, which is wrong. We said region 1 is transport. Moving on to B. Region 1, we said this transport, not photosynthesis. So part B is also wrong. C. Region 1, we said this what? Transport. Yes. So moving on now to region 2. So this is how you identify what? Answers. So region 2, since these are already gone, gaseous exchange. Yes, we said region 2 is for gaseous exchange. Region 3, we said this for photosynthesis. So our final answer here is what? C. Yeah. Moving on to question 8. The diagram shows a rhizopus. Which of the labeled parts is the rhizoid. So here again, you have to remember which riboid part is the rhizoid. So before solving, first you have to identify the parts again. That's the first thing you should be doing when you come across what? A question. Identify the parts. Yeah, so as I was saying, label the what? The structures. So part B, what is part B? So part B contains what? Spores. So part B is known as the sporangium. So part B is the sporangium. Yeah. Then part C. Part C connects the sporangium to the roots, which is the sporangiform. So we have the sporangium, it contains the spores. We have the sporangiform, which is C. So this is the sporangiform. It contains what? Or it attaches the sporangium to the what? To the roots. Then we have part D, which is the rhizoid. So part D is the rhizoid, and the rhizoid is responsible for attaching the rhizopus to the substrate and secreting what? Digestive enzyme which helps break down the what? The substrate. So here our answer is D. What? The rhizoid, which is D. Moving on to 9. Which of the following is the correct dental formula of a dog? So here we have dental formulas, and they're asking us which of the following is the dental formula of a dog. So how can you identify the dental formula of a dog? So unlike humans, dogs have a dental formula of 42. So they have 42 teeth altogether. So now when we're talking about the dental formula, what you have to understand is that the dental formula only represents one side. So meaning if a dog has 42 teeth, you divide it by 2, which will give us what? 21. So meaning we are supposed to look for a dental formula with 21. So remember, a dog has incisors, canines, premolars, and also molars. Yeah. Let's look at C. So we have 3 upper. So 3 plus 3 we have 6. 1 plus 1 we have 2. So 6 plus 2 we have what? 8. 8 plus 2 we have 10. Plus 3 we have 13. Plus 4 we have what? We have 17. 17 plus 4 we have 21. So our C is the dental formula for a dog because it is going up to 21. So now if you have time, you can compare the rest A, B, and C. You find that it is not adding up to what? To 21. So a quick method which you can do, just know all the teeth which a human has, a dog, a rat, all those dental formulas, because they can only ask, then your part is just adding like the way we did. 3 plus 3 6 plus 1 7 8 10 14 19 21. That just like that. So now moving on to question 10. The diagram shows the human digestive system. Where do absorption and ingestion occurs? So absorption, this is absorption. What is absorption? So absorption, this is the process where your body absorbs now nutrients from the blood. So now where does absorption occurs? So absorption occurs where, if you remember my nutrition video, so I told you that the stomach is involved in the digestion of proteins, while the small intestine is the part which is responsible for absorption. So 3 is for absorption. So we'll put A. Then 2 is for digestion. 1 is for ingestion. I. So this ingestion as I. Then this egestion for removal is E. So meaning 1 is for what? Ingestion. You eat from the mouth. It goes to your stomach. You digest it. Then it reaches the small intestine where absorption occurs now. Then after the small intestine, those food which are not digested, they are removed via the anus through the process of ingestion with a E. So here our answer is C, which is what? 3 for what? Which is 3 for absorption, then 4 for ingestion. Moving on to question 11. So question 11 is